How often are you jumping straight into Adobe XD or Photoshop or Figma or any other art package that you use and start bashing out the web design without any real thought as to how you are going to wrap the branding around it? Now, this approach, more often than not, leads to a far less professional looking website. And honestly, nobody wants that. This can easily be fixed if you know how to create a web design mood board or style guide. And today, guys, I'm going to show you exactly how you can do that. What's up everyone, I'm Tristan Parker and I am committed to helping you guys become better web designers and up your web design game. This is part 3 of a 5-part web design series on how to create a professional looking website. And you are around halfway through now and I'm honestly so excited to start sharing this next part with you. Now that you have covered wireframing and have started producing some professional looking wireframes, we are now going to get into the more visual fun side of things, the part that every designer enjoys, and that is producing a website mood board or style guide, however you want to call it. And this is where you start exploring the things like brand colors, brand fonts, the typography, imagery, creating button elements, essentially all of the components that we need in order to make the website look visually awesome. By the end of this video, you will be able to put together a nice styled collection of components using the tools that Adobe XD has to offer. Now, if you haven't done so already, I recommend you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and you will be notified of future releases. And also, I would love to hear how you are getting on with this process so far. So drop me a comment down below, tell me how you're getting on, ask me any questions, and I will get back to you. Now let's jump on the machine and I'll show you how to get this done. So after the last session, we ended up with a low fidelity wireframe of the homepage. Now I have gone through and just put together some quick wireframes for some of the other pages. But today we're focusing on putting together a style guide for the website that we are designing. Now the style guide is essentially going to cover things like what typography we're going to use, what type of images are we going to use, what style of imagery might we decide to use in this project, as well as icons and colors. Now colors are obviously really important because they really add life to a design. The first thing we're going to want to do is just go and create an artboard so we can chuck all of our assets down onto it. So let's start with typography. We are going to want to define a heading H1. Now the font that I want to use here is probably going to sit in line with the font that I've been using on the YouTube channel and within some of the Instagram posts. So it's quite a heavy font. So we're going to use Google Fonts for this because they're web-ready fonts and they're super useful when you are putting together a website design, especially when you then move into build. It's really quite nice and easy to just link these fonts into your website project. So let's head to Google. And I'm going to go with Roboto or Roboto, however you say it, and we're going to just bring the weight up. We're going to go with black. So if we zoom in there. Now I want my heading 1 font to be like 70 pixels. I want it quite nice and large. And for now we're just going to leave it black. So we've hit this box here, it's going to constrain the heading like so. Now if I right click this, I can now create a character style. If we head over to our assets library, you'll see that we have all of the styles there already from when we were wireframing, and that's absolutely fine. We can keep these there for now and perhaps just delete them later. I have decided to go with another style of font. I did use a typeface for the wireframes and I don't want to use those in the design, and you might find that you don't want to do that either, and that's absolutely fine. But for now I'm going to keep the existing character styles there, add up on top of them, and then perhaps later on we'll remove all of the ones that we don't need. So I've added the heading 1 to my character style. As you can see it here. It's the Roboto font at 70 pixels or points. If I just hold the Option key on a Mac, click and drag down, it will duplicate it. So that's a really nice little shortcut. Heading H2. Now I want this one to be 50 pixels. And then create a H3. And I want this one to be 40 pixels. So there are our headings. Now I also want some alternative like accent headers. And if you notice in some of the YouTube artwork or also within some of the Instagram artwork, I have like a nice sort of handwritten calligraphic font, and I think I'd like to carry that across out in the design. I think it only makes sense. So I'm going to head back over to Google and find a nice web ready font that will do what I need it to do. Cool, so I've decided to go with the Yellowtail font from Google. I think it's quite a nice font. It's not too overly exaggerated with the handwriting, and I think it's really nice and it will complement the design quite well. So if I start with heading 1 again, and I'm going to change this to Yellowtail. There we go, I quite like that. And if we go with heading 2, actually delete those, let's just highlight these 2 and copy those across. And I'm just going to swap those both to Yellowtail. There we go. So now we need to add these character styles to our styles asset library. So right click each one. Cool, so that's headings done. Now let's do the body text. So I'm just going to need to grab some lorem ipsum. I'm not sure if you guys can see this monitor over here, but I've just gone over to the lorem ipsum website. Great for placeholder copy if you're not sure. Just Google lorem ipsum and it will be the first page that you get to. For the body text, I'm going to go with Poppins. I think this is a really nice font. It's also available on Google. I think it's just nice spacing, easy to read, and yeah, I absolutely love it. So I'm just going to go with that one for this. Body text is going to be 20 points, and we're just going to knock the line height down to probably 28. Now let's make that a little higher. Let's go with 30. Let's go even more, 32. There you go. So we're also going to add this to our character style list, and we're just going to relabel these. Cool, so we've got our body text. Now I want to create link text. So this is what any hyperlink text will look like. And I want it to look a little bit different from the body text. So I'm probably going to perhaps increase the letter spacing and maybe make it bold. Perhaps I will then later add a color to it. We shall see. We're waiting until we get to the color section. So I want it to be capitals because I want it to stand out. I'm going to add some weight onto this. Let's go with bold. A bit more than that. Let's go 200. There we go. There's a nice piece of link text that stands out. It allows the user to identify it, and it stands out from the body text, which means it will capture their attention and hopefully they will be drawn in to click it, which is obviously the main aim of clickable text. So let's save this to character styles as well. And we're going to call this link. Now I'm just going to test something because it's saved the character style, but I'm not sure if it's saved all of the other style attributes with it. So I'm just going to create some text. Testing link. And if we change that to the body text and then click, yep, perfect. So it's saved all of the styles with it. If we want it to be uppercase, we can just move over to the right panel and you see the 2 capital T's. We can just change it to uppercase like so. And there you have it. Alternatively, what we might want to do is edit this character style and change it to uppercase by default. And then every time we apply the same character style, we don't need to essentially turn it back into uppercase. Cool, so we've got our headings. Oh, let's swap that one. There we go. We've got our headings, we've got our body text, and we've got our link text. So now let's try and use some of the colors, or at least define some of the colors that we want utilized throughout this website design. So as I mentioned with the fonts, I want those to somewhat sit in line with the YouTube cover art and the Instagram for the Web Design Life. So that's what this site is all about. So I think the best thing to do is just pop over to the channel. Let's color pick some colors from the artwork. And yeah, just build up from there. Usually in this situation, you would either be defining the set of brand guidelines yourself, or perhaps you are defining your own style guide like this and you are experimenting with the colors, and that's absolutely fine. Most of the time you'll be given a set of brand guided documents from your client, and it will include all of the colors, references in there, and the hexadecimals. And in that situation, perfect, you're absolutely winning. So here's an Instagram post which was recently published to the Web Design Life Instagram channel. Now I'm just going to color pick the vibrant blue and the vibrant purple, and they're going to be our 2 primary colors for this project. They're very contrasting colors, and I personally think they work really well together. So let's just create a square for our primary color. I'm going to press I on the keyboard, and that's going to turn the document into a color picker. And I'm going to color pick this turquoise color. And then by shortcut pressing V, it's going to turn it back to the arrow so I can then start clicking elements again. So I'm going to hold Option after clicking that one and drag that one across. And I'm going to press I again and go back to the color picker, and I'm going to color pick that purple. So now that I've got those 2 colors, I can delete those 2, and we're just going to build up this color palette ever so slightly. I'd like a black in there. It's always useful to have black. Actually, I've changed my mind. Greys are a little bit dull, and I think it's quite good to almost offset a darker color of your primary color. Make it dark so it's almost a grey, but it has a hint of color to it. Let me show you what I mean. So if I color pick our primary color right now, and I drag this right down there, that's it. I think that would make a really nice text color. Let's give us something like that. Right, so if we start adding these to our asset library just by right clicking it and going down to make add color to assets, and it's going to pop it up here like that. If you do the same for this one, we'll make sure all of the borders are turned off these, because you'll see that it added another one up here. We don't want that one. Just delete that. I think that's definitely come from the border. That makes sense, yeah. So make sure all the borders are turned off, because we don't need that adding to the color library. Let's head to the purple. Let's do the same for that one. And what we can do is start labeling these. Cool. So now we have our colors. Let's maybe start experimenting with some color in some of our headings and the body text and the link text. And the best way that we can do this is by clicking on an element. It's that easy. Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to turn all of those purple. I'm just going to keep those black. Our text is going to be our text color. Let's see how that's looking. So I don't know about you guys, but I think this maybe needs to be slightly darker. So what we can do here is edit this one. Make it slightly darker, copy that hex code. And paste it in there. There you go. And by doing that, it's going to change all of the colors that we already have applied, or it's going to change all of the elements that we already have that color assigned to, which is pretty awesome. So for example, later down the line when we've produced our entire document, and let's say that we no longer want our heading colors to be purple, we can just double click, edit this one, and let's say you decided that you wanted them red instead. And as you can see, the color is changing with it, which is super awesome for when you've produced an entire website and maybe the client changes their mind on the color, and it's going to be really easy for you to just go and make that amend. Next, we're going to take a look at images. Now, what I like to tend to do here is put together, or at least use this as an opportunity to experiment with what type of images we might want to use. Now, by this, I mean what type of style. So for example, if you have a design, maybe you want to just stick to, I don't know, black and white images, or use a color scale that's sort of all consistent. So you don't end up with a mishmash of images, which, I mean, sometimes it works, but a lot of the time there's just no style or design consistency, which then makes it look like you haven't really put a lot of thought into it and you've made some fairly poor design decisions. That's just the way that I see it anyway. So for the purpose of this exercise, I'm just going to go and grab a couple of images from the Instagram account. So bear with me. So here we have two images. Now, as you can see, the style of them is pretty similar. They're both color, they both have a filter on them because they have come from Instagram. And off the bat, they work. But just to give you a little bit of an idea of what I might usually do here, I'd take my color ones and I'd duplicate them. Now, if I draw a shape over these, and let's draw a white shape, and we will change the blend mode to, I think it is color dodge. No, color. There we go. Using the color blend mode, it's going to turn them into black and white. So that might be an avenue that you might want to go down. Alternatively, I tend to take the same images and then I see how they work with a color overlay. So let's work on these ones here. If I just bring these up to the front by press Command Shift and curly brace. Now what I'm going to want to do is zoom in Press R for the rectangle shape, and I'm going to draw a shape on top of it. Get rid of the border, and let's choose one of our primary colours, or secondary colour. Let's go with purple. And I'm going to change the opacity to 80%. Now what I like to do here as well is maybe have a little play around with the blend mode. There we go, that looks pretty smart. Let's do the same for the bottom one. And this time I'm going to use the primary colour. I'm going to knock that back to 80% as well. And I'm going to change the blend mode to multiply. Okay. Just need to reapply the black and white colour filter. There we go. So this is what I would usually do with the image process, is trying to figure out a style that we might want to utilize throughout the entire site. So we've got color, which is here. We've got grayscale, which again works, and it might actually sit quite nicely on top of color. Or we have black and white grayscale with the color overlay. The overlay does have a blend mode, but as you can see, it creates a really nice effect. So again, these are just options. I think what I might do for the purpose of this exercise is either just stick with the color, or I probably would within the design stage see how these colored overlays sit within the design. Now in this step I'd also include icons, but what we're going to do is, for the purpose of this exercise, is just use Font Awesome. Now Font Awesome is a great place for you to go and get free icons in the form of a font, so they're really easy to put into your designs. And then when you move over to the build stage, it's also really easy to add the icons through a web font. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. So in terms of putting together a style guide, this is as basic as it gets, and hopefully you can see what we're trying to do here. Now the next step would be to take all of these elements and then start moving over into the design. So what we're going to do in the next step is we're going to return to this document, we're going to use our new style guide that we've put together, and then start working these styles and content into the wireframes that we've put together from the previous step. And from this point you will start to see very quickly that we'll have a full visual design starting to build up, and by following these steps it's essentially going to be effortless. I'd really like to know how you've gotten on with your style guide, so drop me a comment down below, share it with me if you can, and if you want to continue improving your design game, I recommend hitting that subscribe button, hit the bell notification, and you'll be notified of future releases. Now next in this series we are taking the style guide and we're going to move it over to a very professional, great, awesome looking visual web design composition. So guys, I'll catch you in the next one.